Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, Op discovers his wife, employed at a daycare, is caught kissing a coworker. Devastated, her husband publicly exposes the affair online, leading to both their job losses. The situation worsens when it's revealed the wife also used drugs that night. Unable to regain trust, the marriage ends, shattering their dreams of a family. Now let's get into the story. My wife, 32 female, and I, 37 male, were married for 5 years. We were considering having children of our own at this point. My wife had been working for a daycare for 6 years and planned on working there until she retired. She loved working with children and felt like she was getting paid to do something she loved. I was happy for her. When we had our own children, they could attend the same daycare for a generous discount. To get this job, she had to get her clearances and do random drug tests. They were sure to hire responsible, clean people. They didn't tolerate any odd behaviors or mistakes. One girl was fired recently for taking too many bathroom breaks. My wife went out one night to have a good time with some of her coworkers. She worked with a man named Ryan AP and 2 girls, one named Marla. Marla was friends with my wife on Facebook, so she knew she was married to me. AP had only been working with him for a few months, so nobody knew much about him. My wife and her 3 coworkers rode in her car to a bar. They met other people there that turned their night around. Until much later when my wife was driving her friends home that I'd receive a picture message. It was from Marla, and it was a picture of my wife kissing AP. She was in the driver's seat, leaning across the middle to kiss him in the passenger seat. I couldn't believe it. She never told me she worked with a man and didn't tell me he would be one of the people with her that night. Marla sent a follow-up message that said she knew it would be hard for me to see this, but since we were married, I deserved to know my wife was dating Ryan. This just confused me. I asked her for more information, and she told me they'd been out alone together at least a few times. She knew this because my wife was giddy about it and couldn't resist telling her everything. I immediately started to consider a divorce. This was breaking my heart, and I'd certainly never be able to trust my wife again. There was no recovery from this. Still, I wanted to know why she felt like she needed another man and if they ever did more than just kiss. The thought of her going on dates with him without my knowledge was very upsetting. I posted the picture of them on Instagram with the caption, "Is it true love or just an affair?" All my wife's friends and coworkers started commenting. A mom chimed in, wondering if these were the people watching their kids. Another woman jumped to conclusions, saying they probably sneak but grab while at work. Another person suggested they be reported just in case something inappropriate was happening. I didn't even have to do anything. There was an army of concerned people online. My wife immediately went to bed when she got home, and I just let her sleep. She went to work the next morning without checking Instagram. While her and AP were watching children in their respective classrooms, I showed up to speak with their boss. When I showed her the photo, she acted quickly. She pulled them both out of their classes, and the looks on their faces said it all. They knew this was bad. In the boss's office, they were shown the picture and scolded. This was not the behavior their employer expected from them. AP broke down and begged to keep his job. He said he had a child of his own that wouldn't be able to attend if it weren't for the employee discount. My wife didn't know AP was married with a child of his own. She cried and asked to keep her job too, and looked at me like she was going to beg my forgiveness next. Their boss said she'd consider letting them keep their jobs as long as one of them transferred to a different location and they both passed drug tests. Both their faces dropped like they wouldn't pass. With my heart pounding, I asked my wife if she did drugs. She said no, but her eyes were darting between us. Her boss asked if she'd be willing to take a drug test, but she just got defensive and said that had nothing to do with a kiss. I decided to make it even more awkward and asked if kissing had anything to do with intimacy. Her face turned bright red and AP excused himself. My wife followed, so I followed her. In the parking lot, I really felt my rage starting to build. I punched AP, causing him to stumble back. I demanded to know if he slept with my wife. He only denied it. When my wife and I got home, I could only think of filing for divorce. I asked her if I could see her phone, and she refused, so I told her to get out of my house. She was already so upset from losing her job, with her puffy face and red eyes. With more tears, she begged me to stay married to her. I asked again to check her phone, but she didn't want me to, because then I wouldn't forgive her. I asked her why she refused a drug test. Before she answered, I told her she had to be honest with me if there was any chance of us staying together. She swallowed hard and told me they met a group of people at the bar that persuaded them to have some fun by doing drugs. So not only did she cheat on me, but she also did drugs and drove impaired. And now she was refusing to let me see her phone. I ordered her to leave, announcing that our marriage was over because I'd never be able to trust her the same way again. Since AP was married and they both lost their jobs, my wife never saw him again. Now she lives alone in the only place she could find, without her job, husband, or kids of her own. All our life plans were flushed down the toilet. Today's second story. In this story, OP's shock and heartbreak upon discovering his wife's infidelity with their mechanic. Despite attempts to save the marriage, including confronting her and seeking explanations, the betrayal led to divorce. He exposed the affair publicly, causing consequences for the mechanic. He eventually found happiness with a new partner and embraced a new life after the devastating experience. Now let's get into the story. I 40 male trusted my wife 33 female because she never gave me a reason to worry before. We were successful, in love, and had a great intimate life. I didn't see an end to our relationship, and I never expected her to want anyone or anything else. If there was anything my wife was good at, it was communication. She talked to me all day, every day, either through text or in person when we were off work. We had some hard conversations over our many years of marriage that resulted in us compromising and growing closer. I was a highly paid accountant for a company that everyone has heard of. We made plenty of money on my income alone. So my wife retired early and started specializing in property management, our house, and flea marketing. Our house and landscape was beautifully cared for by her. She picked what to plant outside and never missed a day cleaning out the gutters. The one thing neither of us had any experience or skill in was mechanics. One month my daily driver gave out. I had no idea what was wrong, so it was towed to the nearest repair shop. I started driving our backup car, only for it to die on me 3 minutes from home. That one was towed to the same mechanic as well. While I carpooled to work, my wife started communicating with the mechanic. She said it would be pretty expensive, but worth it to keep the cars instead of buying new ones. We weren't worried about money, so she told me it would be taken care of. I didn't think anything about it for months. Our cars were back and working just fine. A year and some months passed, and for all that time, she slept with me less and less frequently until it was non-existent. I tried a few times to ask her about it and tell her how much I missed it and needed it. She just said she was going through a lot that week, or she was going through a phase where she didn't need or have time for intimacy. When it didn't improve, I suggested she see her doctor, but she said she could get through it on her own given it enough time. So I backed off and gave her time, but I continued to love her any way I could. I prepared a romantic dinner for her and gave her a foot massage when I came home from work. I could tell she was uncomfortable with my doting and felt guilty. The next morning, I was at work when I got a family locator notification. It said my wife's phone was about to die, but it always said that. I accidentally clicked on the notification and it brought me to my wife's current location. She was on the mechanic's property. I freaked out and my mind started racing. I could only feel devastation, even though I didn't know what was going on yet. I went to my boss and told him what I discovered and that I felt it necessary to look into it. He let me go for the day. I pulled up behind my wife's empty car and walked towards the garage. When I rounded the corner, I could see that behind a pickup truck on a garage couch, my wife was having intimate with our mechanic. I covered my mouth to stop myself from making any noise and pulled up my phone camera with a shaking hand. I took several pictures from under the truck, making sure my wife's face was identifiable. Then I sprang out and yelled at them. They jumped and started frantically dressing. My wife just repeated, "Oh my God," over and over again. Looking into my pleading eyes, my wife started telling me that he was just helping her, but it didn't mean anything beyond that, and it shouldn't take meaning from our marriage. All I could say was that he was supposed to work on cars, not my wife. My vision turned black around the edges, and I punched AP. He went down, out cold. I grabbed my wife's hand and drove her home to talk. Words can't express how betrayed I felt. We were in each other's life for more than 20 years. She was the one person in the world I could trust to be there for me with unconditional love like I gave her. At home, I asked her why I wasn't enough. She cried hard as she tried to explain that she was basically bored of our routine and so used to me that she would fantasize whenever we made love. Through tears, I told her to leave, but she refused and begged me to stay with her. I asked her why she never told me how she felt. I asked her why we couldn't have done something else, anything else to get back the spark. She just cried and said she messed up. She made the worst mistake of her life, and she needed my forgiveness. I asked her how many times they slept together. She couldn't look at me. She just sobbed. I figured it was a lot for over a year. I wouldn't forgive her for this. I showed her the pictures I took and told her to leave, this time more serious, with tears drying on my face. The woman in this picture was not my wife. My wife would never do that to me. I told her she could be this woman all she wanted now because I accepted that my wife was gone. It was extremely hard to go through this, so I called my brother over. He was tainted, years older, and it was great to have him there while my wife packed. He kept me distracted and thinking about possibilities. The pictures I snapped took away any chance my wife had at keeping the house or my money. She was forced to get a job so she could afford to live on her own, paying rent for a closet-sized apartment without a yard. I posted the pictures on the garage's Google reviews and his website. That was all it took for him to lose his customer base and reputation. None of his male customers trusted him to get close to their family or talk to their wives, with good reason. I've been dating another woman for 3 years now. She has children that look up to me as an example, and I love it every day. I got through the worst betrayal of my life and found a new wonderful reality I never would have experienced if not for going through a divorce.